a desperate mother. Maria Alvarez sat in the dimly lit corner of her tiny apartment, her guitar resting on her lap. She strummed it gently, the soft chords resonating in the quiet room. Across the small space, her 8-year-old son, Leo, lay curled up on the couch, fast asleep. His breathing was shallow, his chest rising and falling with visible effort. Maria's heart ached as she watched him, her mind racing with worry. Leo had been diagnosed with a rare and life-threatening heart condition a year earlier. The doctors had told her that surgery was his only hope, but the cost was staggering, far beyond anything Maria could afford. As a single mother working 2 jobs, she had already exhausted her savings and taken on every extra shift she could, yet she was still thousands of dollars short. Maria glanced at the crumpled bills and loose coins in the jar labeled Leo's surgery fund. It wasn't enough. It never seemed to be enough. Tears stung her eyes, but she pushed them back. She couldn't afford to give up, not when Leo's life depended on her. A mother's determination. Maria was no stranger to hardship. She had always prided herself on her ability to face life's challenges with resilience, but this was different. This was her son. The thought of losing him was unbearable. In her darkest moments, music had always been her refuge. Maria's voice was a gift, rich, soulful, and full of emotion. She had dreamed of becoming a professional singer once, but those dreams had been set aside when Leo came into her life. Now, her music was a source of comfort, a way to express the feelings she couldn't put into words. That night, as she sat with her guitar, an idea began to take shape. It was risky, and it might not amount to much, but she had to try. She couldn't sit idly by while time slipped away. Singing for hope. The following evening, Maria packed her guitar and a small sign that read, "Every note for Leo, help save my son." She walked to a busy park in the city, her hands trembling as she set up near a bustling walkway. Crowds passed by, their laughter and conversations blending into the evening air. Maria took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and began to sing. Her voice carried through the park, a haunting melody that drew the attention of passers-by. She sang a song she had written for Leo, the lyrics pouring straight from her heart. "Hold on, my child, don't let go of my hand. We'll find a way, though the road feels unplanned. You're my light in the dark, my reason to fight. With love as our guide, we'll make it through the night." The raw emotion in her voice stopped a few people in their tracks. A couple dropped coins and small bills into the open guitar case at her feet. Others stood for a moment, listening, before continuing on their way. A modest response. Maria sang for hours, her voice rising and falling with each song. A small crowd gathered briefly here and there, but most people walked past without stopping. When she finally packed up for the night, her hands were numb from playing, and her throat ached. She counted the money in her case, $42. It wasn't much, but it was something. As Maria walked home under the city's glowing streetlights, she felt a mix of exhaustion and determination. She knew she would be back the next night and the night after that, if necessary. She had no choice. For Leo, she would sing until her voice gave out, until every last note had been sung. Little did Maria know, someone extraordinary would soon hear her song, a stranger who would change the course of her life forever. An unexpected audience. Keanu Reeves had always found solace in evening strolls. The hum of the city, the twinkling lights, and the quiet anonymity of walking through a crowd helped him clear his mind. That night, as he wandered through the park, the faint sound of music caught his attention. It wasn't the polished sound of a professional performance or the cheery tune of a busker, it was something different. Raw. Heartfelt. He stopped mid-stride, his ears straining to catch the melody as it grew louder. Drawn by curiosity and the sheer emotion in the voice, he followed the sound until he came upon a small gathering. At the center of the group was a woman seated on a worn stool, her guitar resting on her lap. Her eyes were closed as she sang, her voice carrying a depth of emotion that silenced the usual chatter of the park. A song of love and determination. Maria was immersed in her song, oblivious to the growing crowd. The song she sang was one she had written for Leo, its lyrics an intimate expression of her fears, hopes, and unshakable love for her son. Though the winds may howl, the stars fade away. My love will guide us, come what may. With every heartbeat, I'll carry you through. For there's nothing in this world I wouldn't do for you. Keanu stood at the edge of the crowd, his hands in his jacket pockets, as her words washed over him. The emotion in her voice struck a chord deep within him, pulling at memories of his own struggles and the people he had loved and lost. He noticed the small sign propped up next to her guitar case, every note for Leo, help save my son. As the song came to an end, the crowd clapped politely, a few dropping coins and bills into the open guitar case. Maria opened her eyes and offered a small, grateful smile, her exhaustion evident. Keanu remained rooted in place, his heart heavy with the weight of what he had just heard. Approaching Maria. As the crowd began to disperse, Keanu stepped forward, his presence understated but commanding. Maria noticed him as he approached, her tired smile flickering back to life as she adjusted her guitar. That was a beautiful song, Keanu said, his voice warm and genuine. It's clear it comes from a very personal place. Maria hesitated, caught off guard by the sincerity in his tone. Thank you, she replied softly. I wrote it for my son. He's the reason I'm out here tonight. Keanu gestured toward the stool next to her. Do you mind if I sit for a moment? Maria nodded, and he sat down, his demeanor calm and approachable. I saw your sign, he said. Leo's your son? Yes, Maria said, her voice trembling slightly. He's 8 years old. He has a rare heart condition, and he needs surgery, soon. I've been doing everything I can to raise the money, but... Her voice trailed off as she glanced at the modest collection in her guitar case. Keanu followed her gaze, understanding the unspoken weight behind her words. A shared connection. Maria hesitated before continuing. I know singing in the park isn't much, but it's all I have left to offer. My music, it's the only way I know how to reach people. Keanu studied her face, seeing the quiet determination mixed with exhaustion. Music has a way of connecting people, he said. And yours carries something special. It's not just talent, it's heart. Maria blinked, surprised by his words. Thank you, she said quietly. I need to save him. He's everything to me. Keanu nodded, his own experiences with love and loss surfacing in his mind. He could feel the depth of Maria's devotion to her son, the unyielding drive to do whatever it took to give him a chance. An offer of hope. Before leaving, Keanu reached into his pocket and discreetly placed a generous amount of cash into her collection box. Maria, focused on packing up her guitar, didn't notice. As he stood, he met her gaze again. Don't lose hope, Keanu said, his voice steady and filled with quiet conviction. You're doing something extraordinary. Keep singing. People will listen. Maria nodded, her throat tightening with emotion. Thank you, she managed to say. Keanu gave her a small, reassuring smile before walking away, his mind already turning over how he could do more. Maria watched him disappear into the night, not realizing who he was or the extent of the help he was about to provide. All she knew was that a stranger had seen her, truly seen her, and given her the strength to keep fighting for her son. And for Keanu, the haunting melody of Maria's song stayed with him long after he left the park, sparking an idea that would change her life forever. A small gesture, a big change. Maria packed up her guitar with the practiced movements of someone used to exhaustion. The evening's performance had left her throat dry and her fingers sore, but she still clung to a shred of hope. She glanced down at her collection box and sighed. While she was grateful for every coin and bill people had dropped in, it was far from enough to make a dent in the towering cost of Leo's surgery. She adjusted the sign next to her box, every note for Leo, help save my son, hoping it would inspire just a bit more generosity tomorrow. Keanu's quiet donation. Unbeknownst to Maria, Keanu had circled back after their conversation. While she was occupied packing up her belongings, he approached her collection box. His heart ached as he thought of the sacrifices she was making for her son, the love and desperation woven into her voice. Quietly, he reached into his wallet and pulled out a thick stack of bills. Without drawing attention to himself, he slipped the cash into the box. Then, he pulled a small notebook from his jacket pocket and scribbled a few words on a piece of paper. He folded the note and tucked it under the cash, ensuring it would catch Maria's eye when she checked the box later. The note read, "Your strength is inspiring. Keep singing, and don't lose hope, help is on the way." Satisfied, Keanu walked away, blending into the crowd as if he had never been there. Maria's surprise. When Maria returned home that night, she set the collection box on the kitchen table. She didn't expect much, it had been a slow evening, but she began counting the money anyway. As she sifted through the coins and small bills, her hands froze. At the bottom of the box was a stack of crisp $100 bills. She stared at the money, her breath catching in her throat. Trembling, she unfolded the handwritten note and read the message. Tears welled in her eyes as she clutched the paper to her chest. The words felt like a lifeline, a reminder that she wasn't alone in her fight to save Leo. Who could have done this? She whispered to herself, her voice breaking. She looked over at Leo, fast asleep on the couch, his small face peaceful, despite the battles his body was fighting. Maria vowed to use the gift wisely, to keep pushing forward no matter how hard it got. Renewed determination. The next evening, Maria returned to the park with her guitar, a new fire in her spirit. She sang louder, her voice resonating with hope and gratitude. More people stopped to listen, drawn not just by her talent but by the story she shared between songs. She told them about Leo, about her dreams for him, and about the kindness of strangers who had given her the strength to keep going. Donations began to trickle in more steadily, but Maria still had no idea that the man who had left the note was planning something much bigger. Keanu's next move. That night, Keanu sat in his quiet home, the melody of Maria's song still echoing in his mind. Her strength and determination had moved him deeply, and while he was glad to have given her some immediate relief, he couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to do more. He picked up his phone and called a trusted friend who worked with a well-known charity organization. Keanu explained Maria's story, her son's illness, and the uphill battle she was fighting to save him. The friend listened carefully, inspired by Keanu's passion and the urgency in his voice. "We can help," the friend said. "Let's set up a fundraiser. We'll highlight her story and see how much we can raise." Keanu leaned back in his chair, a rare smile crossing his face. "Thank you," he said. "Let's make this happen." The plan for a fundraiser. The charity moved quickly, organizing a high-profile event designed to raise funds for Maria and Leo. Keanu, true to his nature, insisted on keeping his role behind the scenes. He didn't want the focus to be on him, this was about Maria and her son. The event would feature Maria as the headline performer, allowing her to share her story and her music with a larger audience. The charity also created an online campaign to reach people worldwide, amplifying Maria's voice and calling on others to help. As the plans fell into place, Keanu felt a deep sense of satisfaction. He had no doubt that the event would make a difference, giving Maria and Leo the chance they so desperately needed. And while Maria continued to sing in the park, unaware of what was happening behind the scenes, the wheels of change were already in motion. A life-changing encounter. Maria sat on her couch, her guitar resting across her lap, when she received the call. A representative from a well-known charity organization introduced herself and explained that Maria's story had reached them. The charity was hosting a fundraiser to help families in need, and they wanted Maria to perform at the event. Maria was stunned. "You want me to sing? At a fundraiser?" "Yes," the woman replied warmly. "We've heard about your incredible voice and the story behind your songs. We believe your performance could inspire others to contribute and help your son." Maria hesitated, overwhelmed by the opportunity. "I'd be honored," she finally said. "Thank you." Arriving at the event. The night of the fundraiser arrived, and Maria stood outside the grand event hall, clutching her guitar case tightly. The elegant setting, with its red carpet and glittering lights, felt like another world compared to the modest park where she usually performed. She took a deep breath, her heart racing as she stepped inside. A kind staff member guided her to the backstage area, where she glimpsed the bustling preparations for the evening. "You're going to be wonderful," the staff member reassured her before stepping away. Gratitude and reflection. After the event, Maria approached Keanu, tears streaming down her face. "I don't even know how to thank you," she said, her voice trembling. "You've given me and Leo a chance I didn't think we'd have." Keanu placed a hand on her shoulder. "You already thanked me," he said. "When you kept singing. When you didn't give up. That's what this is all about." Maria hugged him tightly, her heart full of gratitude. That night, as she returned home with the news of the funds raised, she knew her life, and Leo's, had been forever changed. A brighter future. Leo lay in a hospital bed, his small frame surrounded by monitors softly beeping in rhythm with his heartbeat. Maria sat by his side, her hands gently holding his as she watched him sleep peacefully. The surgery had been a success, a moment she had prayed for, fought for, and sung for. Relief washed over her like a tidal wave, and for the first time in months, she felt like she could truly breathe. A new chapter for Leo. Leo's recovery was slow, but steady. His cheeks regained their color, and his laughter returned, filling their home with the warmth Maria had missed so much. With the financial burden eased by the fundraiser, Maria could focus entirely on helping him heal and regain his strength. One afternoon, as Leo painted in the living room, his favorite activity, he turned to Maria with a wide grin. "Mom, when I'm all better, can we go back to the park? I want to hear you sing again." Maria chuckled, ruffling his hair. "Of course, sweetheart. But only if you sing with me." "Deal," Leo said, giggling. New opportunities for Maria. The exposure from the fundraiser brought unexpected opportunities Maria's way. A local music producer who had attended the event reached out, offering to help her record her songs. "Your music has something special," he told her. "It's not just your voice, it's the emotion, the honesty. People need to hear it." Maria hesitated at first, unsure if she could balance this new chapter with being a mother. But with Leo's health improving, she decided to embrace the chance, seeing it as a way to honor the journey they had been through. She recorded her first song, a studio version of the piece she had sung at the fundraiser, and shared it online. To her astonishment, it quickly gained traction, with people from all over the world resonating with its heartfelt lyrics. Offers for small performances and collaborations began to trickle in, and Maria realized that her music could touch lives far beyond the park. Reflecting on the journey. One evening, as she sat on her balcony, guitar in hand, Maria reflected on how her life had changed. She thought of the nights spent singing in the park, the desperation she had felt, and the stranger who had stopped to listen. Keanu Reeves' kindness had been the spark that turned her darkest days into a story of hope. She often wondered what would have happened if he hadn't heard her song that night. The thought made her all the more grateful, not just for the financial help, but for the reminder that there were people in the world who cared enough to make a difference. A quiet celebration. Months later, Maria, Leo, and Keanu gathered for a quiet celebration in Maria's small but cozy apartment. Leo, now healthy and full of energy, buzzed around the room, showing Keanu his latest artwork. "This one's my favorite," Leo said, holding up a colorful painting of a guitar surrounded by stars. Keanu crouched to Leo's level, examining the painting with a warm smile. "You've got talent, kid," he said. "Maybe you'll be the next great artist." Leo beamed. "Or maybe I'll play guitar with Mom." Maria laughed, setting plates of food on the table. "He's already better than me," she teased. As they sat down to eat, the conversation flowed easily, filled with laughter and gratitude. For Maria, this moment was more than just a celebration, it was a reminder of how far they had come. She glanced at Keanu, her heart swelling with appreciation for the man who had changed their lives. "I don't know if I'll ever be able to thank you enough," Maria said softly, her eyes meeting his. You already have, Keanu replied with a gentle smile. By staying strong. By sharing your music. And by giving Leo a future. A song that lives on. After dinner, Maria picked up her guitar at Leo's insistence and began to play the song that had started it all. This time, Leo joined in, his voice soft but full of joy. Keanu listened, his heart full, as the music filled the room. For Maria, this was the ultimate full circle, a moment of peace, love, and gratitude born from a chance encounter and a heartfelt song. And for Keanu, it was another reminder of why small acts of kindness, like stopping to listen, could make all the difference. Their lives, forever intertwined by that single evening in the park, were now bound by something far greater, the shared understanding of what it meant to find hope in the most unexpected places.